Okay guys, Keith back with Bulletproof RC. Had a chance to run the Yeti and I'm very impressed. It's a very awesome machine. Very unique because I can't say it's my fastest rig in my collection. It's definitely not the one that you would take off of a 6-foot jump like my Savage. And I'm not even sure at 1/10 scale it would even handle some of the roughest terrain in my collection. But it is very unique. It's refreshing. I love the look of it and the way the suspension handles the terrain. It's just it's a sight to behold. All the aftermarket components that I've put together in this rig have all come together into a masterpiece. However, as you know, any RC is never done. It's always a work in progress. And I did order some Proline shocks. I mentioned in my last video that the stock shock springs were not adequate for the weight that I've added to this rig. So I did find some springs in a tuning kit that I had from a SCT. And I did raise the suspension up a little bit, but I still am not happy with the shocks. It may just be the 10 weight in the rear is too light because it's bouncy. And even the 30 weight in the front is it's not where it needs to be. It isn't as plush as it needs to be. And I actually blew front bladder in one of the shocks. So anyway, it's time to upgrade the shocks, guys. So I went with the Proline Powerstroke XT shocks for the rear, which are a direct bolt-on for the Yeti in the rear. And Proline's website recommends the 6063-01, which is for the slash 4x4 rear for the front. I found that very interesting because in most cases folks are using the front shocks from a slash 4x4 on their Yeti, but these are actually a little bit longer. We'll see how they hook up, but these are what Proline recommends. And of course I decided to go with an RPM A-arms. I'm not planning on using this rig too much as far as jumping, that sort of thing. I'm just going to kind of do some trail crawling with it. But sometimes, you know, when you get up to speed, you cartwheel and different things like that. You hit a bump wrong, and it's always good to have RPM where you need it. So out of all the aluminum components that I've got on this rig, I think the A-arms need to be strengthened as well, and RPM's definitely my choice. I'm going to go with the 20 weight TLR silicone for the rear, and I'm going to use the stock 30 weight axial oil in the front shocks. I mentioned in a previous video that I had a T-Bone Racing skid plate. Have not installed that yet, so I'm going to do that. And then lastly, I've got a new rear sway bar. And guys, the reason I did this is because I mentioned in my previous video that the Hot Racing front sway bar was lacking. It did not perform the way I'd hoped. Well, the Hot Racing rear sway bar hooked up great, and I thought it was going to be wonderful, but once you put the cage on, see if I can get this in the shot, and once you get the cage on and you compress it, it hits the cage, and you don't get a full compression on your shocks. That's not good, guys. And you can see how the Hot Racing arm is offset from the one leading down to the axle. The GPM, it's all in line with each other, so I think it's going to be a better solution. I did like the blue, but all in all, I think that'll be a good choice. And guys, I'm really, once again, I'm pleased with how everything turned out. And the motor that I chose is definitely an inexpensive motor. I got it off eBay for $23, shipped from California. It is a Chinese motor, and it's a 3100. I'm probably getting around 35 miles per hour out of this as is. I've got the 18 tooth Robinson Racing pinion in it, and I'm guessing on a high end 35 miles per hour. It's not bad at all. It's doing the job, but my motor's still cool. and I've got plenty of grunt on the low end, so I am going to up it to a 20 tooth and see, you know, experiment with the gearing. We can see where we go from there. And anyway, I think it's going to be quite interesting to see where this thing goes from here. No RC's ever done. It's always work in progress. So guys, I'll come back when I get all these parts installed and we'll take a gander at what we got. Guys, got the Proline shocks installed and they are super nice. Super nice. Definitely like the XTs in the rear. They're super smooth. The 20 weight oil is perfect for the rear of this rig. Much better than the 10 weight this factory with the stock kit. Then in the front, I did put 30 weight in here, and it feels pretty good. I've got a spring tuning kit coming because I think I'm on a little bit stiffer springs. I can still crank down the tensioner a little bit, and also I may go with 45 weight in the front, just simply because I've got a lot of weight in this car, guys, and I just want to make sure that I have proper suspension in the front. You definitely want to make sure that you have proper dampening in the front. It feels pretty good right now, but anyway, still gonna work with that a little bit more. As you can see, those are the A-arms that I installed, the RPM A-arms. That was a breeze to install. And then there's your T-bone skid plate. One thing I really like about the T-bone skid plate is that it's smooth. A lot smoother than the bottom of the stock chassis, and not only does it protect that chassis, but also keeps from getting hung up on things. In the rear down there, I didn't mention it a while ago, I installed a skid plate that goes on the axle. Got it off of eBay. There's a guy that makes them on there. I think I've seen them on Amazon as well, but I purchased mine off eBay. It basically just bolts up to the rear of your axle and then provides a little bit of a skid down there. And I actually have a few scratches on it from playing around, so that turned out nice. And I'm going to pause the video for a sec and show you the rear sway bars. Got the body on, and just wanted to show you the GPM sway bars and how they actually work the proper way. They clear the cage. See, the hot racing sway bar was hitting the cage underneath, limiting the down travel of suspension. Big no-no. But the GPM, on the other hand, perfect fit. Perfect fit, perfect action. And I like the blue back there poking through, but I like the silver too, so we're good there. So overall, I don't recommend hot racing sway bars. The front and the rear, they just, I don't know. Hot Racing makes some great products. I love the steering rack that I have on this car. It's wonderful. The pivot balls, they were great. No problems there. The sway bars, on the other hand, I just wonder if Hot Racing even test fitted those onto a Yeti, because they did not hook up right. But overall, I'm very happy with the car so far. The Proline shocks are a great addition. RPM A-arms, always a great addition. And the T-bone skid underneath, we're going to create a smooth surface for going over obstacles and protection to the chassis. And of course, now have GPM rear sway bar that actually functions the correct way. What's next? I'm going to upgrade the shock oil in the front to 45 over the 30 that's in there now, and I'm going to play around with the springs. I've got some springs coming from the Proline for the Proline shocks up there, and then I've got some LEDs front and rear. I recently installed these front light buckets from an Axial light kit. I got the roof rack up there, and then of course the brake lights back there in the back of the cage. So I'm going to get all that wired up. And it's also worth mentioning that I I removed the interior out of the car simply because the ESC sits high in this car, and the RTR version does not have a fan on the ESC, so it's probably not an issue, but my fan on my ESC was right up against the passenger driver inside, so I didn't feel like it was getting proper airflow, so I pulled the interior out. I don't know if I'll leave it like this, but for now, I'm fine with it not having an interior. I think it looks just fine. It actually matches the rest of my collection better anyway, because I've got a Vatera that I've mentioned before, and that Vatera does not have an interior. And then also my Exo. My Exo does not have an interior either. And I got tired of fiddling with the drivers and interiors in there, getting in the way when I wanted to work on things anyway. So did the same thing with the Yeti, and I'm going to play with this thing some more and continue tuning. And anyway, thumbs up on this car so far. It seems to be a very bulletproof rig so far. But thanks for watching, guys, and don't forget to like and subscribe.